All right. So we have the winning the mental side of weight loss. And so as I was going through, there was like so much to cover, and I guess I should have known better. So I feel like I made a mistake on this one. This is a huge topic in many ways. So we're going to try to cover a few of these areas. Yeah, definitely. This kind of runs the gamut of like an entire psychological careers, of years and years and years of study have gone into just this one area, and I think probably more study has gone into this area than probably any other area we have spoken about. So definitely more study on this side than on how to do a good squat or something like that. There's definitely a bunch more information there. So in an effort to do it justice, I'm going to say a quick prayer. God, just help whatever I do, I get a chance to cover, that it is helpful, it is useful for the people who are here in person, and for the people who are listening to the recording later on. That there's a couple concepts or ideas that we hit in here that can really break them out of some mental ruts and head trash, that are holding them back from the life that you've built for them, you've designed them for, and just help us to find that, and to find more peace, happiness, joy, and contentment, because we are more in alignment. In your Son Jesus Christ, Amen. All right, so the mental side. Here we go. So some questions. I'm going to read some of these here. Just these are some comments, questions that people have made here. How to break through times when you give up. How to get back on track. It seems easier said than done. This isn't my first time trying to lose weight. It's been a constant battle. I think the longest I stuck with it was about 8 months, when I lost about 50 pounds. Unfortunately, I gained it back plus a few. I really want to make it permanent weight loss. Another one was, I also consider myself knowledgeable about fitness and nutrition. I know the correct behaviors. I just don't know how to stick with them over the long run, making it a lifelong commitment. Another one was, what if I can't keep it off? Why bother? If I lose weight and I don't keep it off, it just comes right back on. It's tiring. Sounds like getting tired out of trying. Why do we eat less healthy food? When we have the healthier options available? Is it habit? Is it willpower? What's the issue there? Stress, keeping focused, not giving in, to the stresses of life there. And so this one's a big one. So some of you guys may know I wrote a book. All right, it was Fitness in Real Life. It's lovely. I have a little picture of this little perfect family on the cover, and I think it just looks cheesy in fact that way. But I think probably could be a better cover picture. But the idea was, we look perfect, but everybody's got to do something more beyond the cover, different challenges, stuff like that. And we've had our share of those in our household. But I took a look at the chapters of this book when I was looking at I think we talked about these these categories here. These 7 ways to lose weight: environment manipulation, eliminate foods, tracking food, increase exercise, decrease inactivity, increase nutrient density, and manage internal climate. All right. And so we've covered a bunch of those, in this, in several of these talks actually. But if you look at the list here, it is, I kind of categorized chapters of the book based on these points here. And so environment manipulation, chapter 10, 14, 17, 19, 20, there's 5 chapters that talk about that. There's 3 chapters that talk about eliminate foods, 5 that talk about tracking food, 3 about increasing activity, or increase exercise, and then, another 3 about decreasing inactivity, another 3 about increasing nutrient density, and then, 16 about managing internal climate. So this is the mental side. And so we talk about, there's what to do, and then there's how to do it, and then there's why to do it. And I think, I'm certain the how and why is the harder part of that. What to do is, we all know, we eat fewer calories than we burn. We try to eat lots and lots of healthy things. We move our bodies, we stretch our bodies, we strengthen our bodies, and we become healthier, stronger, wonderful, happier people. And so we all know what We all know what. Most people, when you ask them, like, is there something, what's something you could do to be healthier today? Everybody can say something. So we all have the what, how to do it, and getting the why. The why is maybe the motivation component is the tough part. And so just looking through, some of these chapters, I'll read you some of the titles of the chapters. So chapter 2 is Are You a Yo-Yo Dieter? Chapter 4 is Care for Your Body Like a Plant. Number 7 is The Balance Illusion. Number 10 is Dealing with Crabs, so negative people in your life. Number 12 is There's No I Can't. Number 14 is Are You Living in a Rat Trap? So is life gets you feeling stuck. Stress effects, stress management, sleeping. Let's see, chapter 21 is Creating a Craving. Chapter 25 is On the Other Side of No, There's Joy. 26 about momentum. 27 about boredom. 28 is about want to versus have to. Chapter 30 is The Key to Happiness. 31 is Realize You Ain't Perfect. And so a lot of these chapters actually go off of this the mental side of things. So this is too big of a topic, but I got some ideas that I just want to share, and they bounce around a little bit. So here's some 2,000-year-old wisdom right here. All right, so this is from Romans 7:15. The Apostle Paul wrote a whole bunch of stuff down, and a lot of it's really good stuff. And so I do not understand what I do. What I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. And so all those do's and stuff like that, sometimes it gets a little bit cloudy, especially when you read it with the other verses. It's amazing. He goes through it several times. You're like, whoa, like mind trips. But I don't understand what I do. So he's not understanding why, he's doing what he's doing. Why do I behave this way? What I want to do, I'm not doing. The good, healthy things I want to do, I'm not doing them. The good behavior, the being kind to others, all the other things that are involved, I'm not doing this good stuff. And I know the good stuff, but I'm not doing it. The stuff I don't like, the stuff I don't want to do, the stuff that I hate, he says in here, the stuff I hate, I keep finding myself doing. And so I don't know if this is going to be encouragement or not, but this is a 2,000 plus year old problem. So if you can relate to that and go, man, I don't understand why I am doing things the way I'm doing them. It doesn't make sense in my logical mind. Why? Of course I should do the good things, but why do I keep getting caught in the not so good things? And so maybe it's comforting that you're not alone in this. I find some comfort in it, at least, that this is not solely my challenge, on this earth, is that it's been going on for a long time. Maybe the exact type of challenges. I'm sure the Apostle Paul had no problem with using a cell phone too much or those kind of things, but I'm sure there were other things, in their lives. Here's a thought that I really like, and about person like sabotaging yourself. All right, and so this is one to call upon when you are tempted to give up because you didn't do it perfectly. All right. And so the example is when you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire, do you instantly get out and pop the other three? No. No, nobody does that. I got a flat tire. Oh, well, I'm going to get a new tire probably anyway, so let me just pop the rest of these. No, nobody, you don't do that. But we do that in a lot of our health and nutrition behaviors. Yeah, so we're cruising along, and somebody, says, here, you want to try this? And you're like, oh, sure. No, I don't really want to, but I'm going to do it anyway because I feel obligated. And you eat this thing, and now you feel terrible that you did it. And so then you just go crazy for the rest of the day. If it is only a day, sometimes that's enough to go, wow, this week is wrecked. Let me just get going. I'll work on it next week. So some people, like on Friday, you mess that up and go, oh, the weekend's shot now. It's like, you still have Saturday and Sunday, I'll get back to it on Monday, and I think that mentality can delay how well you recover, from those mistakes that you make. The weight maintenance panel that we did, if you look under a Refuse Average and where podcasts are, we have a Refuse Average podcast that there is an episode of that's a weight maintenance panel. I think was it 5 people, I think it was 5 that answered questions. I compiled a bunch of questions and grilled them, basically about maintaining weight. And one of the biggest things was I saw them they had a faster mental recovery than the average person. Than the average client that we deal with. They would make a mistake and they would just punish themselves for a while. And these people in weight maintenance did not. Now, again, they were at more closer to their goal weight, so they're generally happier people because they feel a little bit better. They've been maintaining maybe a reasonably healthy spot, but I think also that's one of the reasons why they're maintaining a healthy spot too, is the mentality there. So let's go on here. So here is the perpetual energy versus erratic energy. All right. And so the thought here is, why do you gain the weight back again? Why you never quite make it? There's always that 5 to 10 pounds that you never quite get off, or why do you lose 50 pounds and you gain back 55? And I think the answer is perpetual energy versus erratic energy. And this is what your motivation for doing this is. And what do you really believe about this process? And so for most people, I think a lot of us, it is unfortunately fueled by self-hate. A self-loathing is what creates a change in behavior. And sometimes, the discomfort that we're experiencing currently, has to get great enough that it overcomes the challenges we have to go through to get there. But if we you will run out of hate at some point. You either get tired of hating, and you'll have that too. You'll be on the quest and you'll get worn out of despising yourself. Or if you hate that you're 50 pounds overweight and you lose 50 pounds, guess what? Your reason for exercising and eating well is gone. It's because you're no longer 50 pounds heavier. You're at a better spot. So now you don't hate yourself. And so your reason for doing all these things is gone now too. And so then the habits go away and then you gain the weight back and you're in the cycle. You're in the cycle there. So that's why we gain back. It's also why we never make it all the way sometimes. So that last 5 or 10 pounds, you're feeling pretty good. You don't hate yourself. You're like, it's not ideal, but it's pretty good. And so you're not disgusted enough that you want to do something about it. And I'd rather it not be fueled by just that, by just our disgust for ourselves. That's an unhealthy place to come from. With this, it needs to become from self-care, and that you are worth more than that. You are worth the effort, and our self-image plays in. Is that the next slide? I don't know. Yeah, good. So our self-image plays into this, and so. First time I came across this, I was like middle school, high school, just like most middle school, high school, kids, they, I had a bunch of head trash to deal with. And so, unlike many middle school, high school kids, my parents, encouraged me to look for some solutions, and they handed me different books, to read, about some of this stuff. And so one of the ones I read was Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He was a plastic surgeon, and the way he came across some of this self-image information is he would fix a scar or somebody's nose. They had a crooked nose or something like that, and it just bugged the crud out of them. Or they had a scar on their face, and they could never get past that. Maybe somebody was like a salesperson, or somebody was somebody who valued their image a lot, and it just closed them off. They almost shut themselves up, depressed, because of this. They were not the outgoing person. Maybe they were designed to be because of this scar or something like that. And so he would fix it. He would fix the nose. He would fix the scar. And some people would skip merrily along the way. If it was a salesperson or something like that, he'd take care of the scar or this crooked nose, and they'd have all this great confidence, and they would start selling like crazy because they just had just wonderful confidence and joy in themselves, that they, they're willing to step out there, which, in sales, you have to step out a little bit. And for other people, somebody who valued their looks, they were more willing to show off. They got back to wearing nice clothes and doing their hair and going out and seeing people. And, it changed them. They felt the difference and it changed them. Other people, though, he changed it. He fixed the scar. He fixed the crooked nose. He fixed that problem. But that person still saw it. So even though it was different, it was changed. They still saw it crooked. They still saw it messed up. They still saw the scar. It was still there to them, even though it was gone. I was like, what is going on with these people? What has happened here? And it kind of came up with self-image. The self-image, did not change for those other people. Their picture of themselves didn't change or adjust. And the other people did. They saw themselves differently. And so he decided the difference was that self-image, and the solution was in the creative imagination. And so, so his solution on this was beginning to imagine things, and things the way they ought to be, and things the way you'd want them to be. I think it was great. Martin Luther King Jr.'s, what it was his most memorable speech. It wasn't the "I have a plan" speech. It was "I have a dream." I have a dream speech. It is something that the way it ought to be, the way things should be. And you start. He was taking people someplace in their imagination, where these kids are playing together. And it's such a wonderful mental image that is what fuels change and positive change. So if we look at, some changes that are maybe required in our culture right now, things that need to be different is, there's a lot of us versus them and things like that going on around. And it does not work out well when it comes from, if I can go back a slide, the hating on the other side. If we go back to hating each other, things like, you can make some changes that way, but it's not healthy. The love side of things is where it needs to hit, and that's where the creative imagination can come in. We invite that to happen, and so culture-wide, there's certainly a need for some of that. But in our own hearts, there is a need for that, especially if you find yourself sabotaging yourself a bit in this process. So your self-image is not of the person who's going to be successful, basically. For me, I have some limitations in my self-image, but there are certain things in my self-image that do hold me in check, to a certain point. And so there's certain beliefs that I have about myself that perpetuate some health and some strength, in my body and my mind and all of that. And I'm thankful for that. I see myself basically, at the weight and size that I am. And that's why I've been able to maintain it for 15 years or something like that. Is that I see myself this way. Now, somebody go, well, yeah, I see myself this way too. Well, let's talk about this. Is that there are a lot of times, if you are 50 pounds overweight and you see yourself as an overweight person, you go, see, I see myself in reality. See, I see myself as a 50-pound overweight person. That's true. All right, fine. But that same person, when they lose 50 pounds, a lot of times they see themselves as a 50-pound overweight person who is pretending to be a 50-pound lighter person. They're just acting out. And so there's only a certain amount of time when the charade, plays out. And you finally go back to where you actually are, who you actually are. And so that's where the creative imagination needs to come in. We need to start imagining ourselves in the place we want to be. Imagining it as reality, as the current state of things. That I am at this place. I am currently there. And he talks about, he talks about the theater of the mind is the way he referred to it. And it is, you hear about the secret or whatever, the law of attraction. There is some truth to some of that stuff, is that, you will get more of what you pour into your mind, and so if you're pouring lots of negative in there, you're going to see lots of it around. You will abound with negativity, and if you can pour positive in there, you'll start to see it more too. So that's where this kind of theater of the mind, comes in. And he talks about it like a theater, like you actually are going to play movies in your mind. Michael Phelps, several Olympics back, he set so many, gold medals and records and all that stuff, all at once there. And one of the things that he had with his coach is they call it the tape. He said, roll the tape. Is basically he had practiced mentally these perfect races, these world record races in his mind, every breath, every stroke. I mean, they knew how many strokes it took them to get down to the other side of the pool. I mean, he would picture everything, the water gliding across his body, the feeling in his lungs, like everything, every part of that race, he'd have pictured it and rehearsed it over and over and over again. And the fist pump at the end, like everything of winning that. And so it was just, it was roll the tape. He would just before the race, he would rehearse, he'd play that tape over and over and over again. And that allowed him, one, to work hard when it was time to do the work. But then it allowed him also to perform well when it was time to perform, to act the way he needed to act. And so for us, sometimes we may need to step out and we need to make a little bit of a movie in our mind of ourselves in a different way. That, if we're seeing ourselves in an unhealthy way right now, like it'll be awkward at first. It'll be awkward to imagine it because you're like, well, it's not true. Well, it's not true yet. But if you can't start to imagine yourself there, you're not going to get there. And so you have to start picturing yourself in the place that you want to be, at the weight that you'd like to be, doing the things you want to do, and in detail. And you play this tape over of what your life is like when you're at this place. This is who I am, and this is what I do. This is how I feel. This is what it's like to do this. This is what it's like when I get dressed up. This is how I feel when I put on nice clothes. This is what it's like. This is when I walk into the room, people go, "Ooh, wow, look at you. Look at those arms. What have you been doing?" However it needs to play out. And but we need to start creating that place. And it takes some time, it takes some effort. But again, more detail, the better. You get the 5 senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, those kind of things. If you really want to battle this, it is in your perception of yourself. For me as a Christian, I believe that there is a God. I believe that, like we all fall and stumble and sin and those kind of things, but God did not make us for that. He did not create us to be blah. He did not create us to be unhealthy. He did not create us to be unhappy. He did not create us that way. He created us to be able to do some of these things. We are made in his image. And so you go, okay, well, I mean, if that's true, if that's true, and if that's your belief that you may share with me, is that spending too much time thinking you're a piece of garbage isn't going to work really well. That doesn't match up right. All right. So in light of maybe how God sees you, you need to start seeing yourself in that light a little bit more. All right. So how do you keep going? Let me see. I'm going to go into just some nuts and bolts of some other things. Is when we're struggling, to maintain, I want you to try to remove the physiological, sorry. So you remove physiological need as the first bullet point there. And so these are the things that we do. We've talked about these before. These, water, protein, fat, mini meals. If you don't get your physiology out of the way, your psychology can't handle it. All right. Is that if you are physically hungry, it's tough to battle it psychologically as well. If you have psychological issues, that are playing a role in this also. So you want to get those out of the way first. And those last 2 points on there, how do I feel and create a craving? Those are what start to get into a psychological place. So you got to get those first 8 points done first, and then worry about those last two. All right. How do I feel and creating a craving? So in brainwashing, so if we look at our poor self-image, so if we are made in the image of God, we were destined, for more. We were destined for more joy and happiness than we currently allow ourselves to experience. More stumbling than we were designed for. Is that we could say, okay, you've been brainwashed. You've been brainwashed into be thinking it's something different about yourself. So in psychology, the study of brainwashing is often referred to as thought reform. It falls into the sphere of social influence. Social influence happens every minute of every day. It is the collection of ways in which people can change other people's attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. All right. And so basically, your negative self-image most likely is a result of social influence, reforming your thoughts in a poor way. And so you see yourself in this bad place. You see yourself as somebody who wears blank size pants, these large pants that you don't like that you wear them, but you see yourself as somebody that is the pants that I fit in. That's the size I fit in. That is the thought I have of myself. That is how I see myself. So what influences us? TV, movies, the media, our childhood, different woundings. Sarah, part of her story is, that she was in gym class and they were weighing people in, and it was like middle school or something like that. And, girls grow fat and grow sooner than boys, but so it's completely unfair. But she was weighing in, and the teacher, was saying the numbers out loud as they're writing them down. And, so she weighs in, and she was like, maybe she was growing out before she grew up, kind of thing. And they said her number, and this kid in line was like, she weighs more than me. He's like a scrawny little kid, little boy or whatever. But that phrase and that look, maybe even the look on his face, stuck with her. And then she felt, that she took that in, and that started to manipulate her self-image. So what kind of things from the past, are you carrying, strange things people said that you are taking deep into your core, and that was said by some child or some dumb adult, that didn't know any better, what they were saying. It doesn't understand, the reality. And so you got to work through some of those. Geography, where we live, changes things quite a bit. We're brainwashed that way. You live in a city, you live in the country, you live over here, you live over there, you live in foreign places, you live in these different places. There's lots of different things geographically that can affect us. Socially, the people that are around us, for sure. Politically, the connections and the people that we are connected with that way. Big business. So marketing and sales are telling you, all sorts of different things. And so we're brainwashed in all of these ways. And I think it's time that you take control of some of that. That if the mental side of things is a challenge for you, is that you say, nuts to that. If anybody is going to wash my melon, it will be me. All right? If anybody's going to wash this thing, it's going to be me. I'm going to wash this thing. All right? Because if you're full of negativity, our body works to fulfill what our mind tells it. All right. And so, like, you're fighting an uphill battle if you are constantly telling yourself negative stuff about yourself. You will not make it. And so, what are these negative beliefs? And that may be a question for another time. You may not have the time to do that right now, but if you do, just get a piece of paper right now, start writing them down. But there's that question. Write that question down. Are there some negative things you believe about yourself? And you say, yes. What are they? And write them down. Write them down. Get them out. And then once you have them out, then you can start trying to process them and go, are they the truth? And I'll give you the hint. Truth comes from God. So if that doesn't seem like it's words that would be coming from a loving Father, Not just a father, because sometimes that's a wound that we have too, but the greatest father ever on the history of this planet, is if it doesn't seem like it's coming from that type of person, then it's probably not the truth. It's probably not the truth. All right. Who is watching the gateway of your mind? I hope it's you, but many times it's not. So the inputs, what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, all those things, what are you letting in? Are you guarding it very well at all? Because like it's just like you think about the gateway to your house. If you leave the door open and you let all the animals scurry in there, whoever wants to just come on in and, track the dirt and junk and all this stuff and drop stuff wherever they want to. And, it's going to be a mess in there. It's going to be a mess in there. You got to say, okay, everybody out, everybody out. I'm taking control of this area. All right. And that's sometimes what you need to do with your mind. Some good inputs. So once you kick everybody out, things you can bring in, the Bible is certainly a go-to. And if that's not part of your belief, there are other things you can do as well. I'd still encourage it if you're curious. Boundaries by Henry Cloud, a really, really good book. I've mentioned it probably a couple of times already, but it is an important one. I think there are certain books that I think every human being should read, and Boundaries by Henry Cloud is one of them. I think How to Win Friends and Influence People is also one of them. As far as doing a good job with being a kind person. It sounds like a manipulative book, actually, though, but it's not. The title will throw you off on that one. The Gifts of Imperfection, if you're struggling with that, Brené Brown. Healing for Damaged Emotions, when you're going for more childhood type things. The Power of Less, when your life is busy and cluttered and in a mess, there, by Leo Babauta. Mindless Eating by Brian Wansink. Some of these can be helpful resources. So you start planning on what you're bringing in. Talks like this, could be a part of that. But you choose these things on purpose, and you don't just surf around and whatever ends up landing on you, you just take in. All right, because that's how to get a lot of junk in your head too. So you need to be proactive with that. And sure, you can look for diversity and stuff like that. In your thinking, you don't want to be walling yourself out, but it needs to be diversity that you're planning. You're creating opportunities for that. All right. Counseling is very helpful. The environments that you are in can affect that. So interactcounseling.com. We've worked with Chris, a whole bunch there. Really, really wise there. One session with him, I equate that with 10 sessions with somebody else, so like as far as just cutting through the clutter and getting some clarity on what actually is, very, very helpful there. Positive environment, like our boot camp classes, things like that. We count those as a good environment. Sometimes there's little small groups you can put together. You can create your own, group of people. You go, these are people that I would love to be more like. Well, invite them to hang out with you. Sometimes they're looking for more positive people to be around too. Maybe it's a career change. If you're in a negative work environment, sometimes you need to drop that. Life is too short. Yes, maybe you need the money, but we all can make money in different ways as well. So that's something to consider. New friends, other people you wish to be like, in there. I'm not even sure I want to get into the habit thing right now. But it does play into this, but that may be a different thing. I think we talked about a little bit. Habit has a cue, a routine, and a reward. Why are we doing these things? Because the cues tell us to a lot of times. And so to disrupt the cue, we need to change that. When we get the cue, we need to do something different. So if the cue is you feel sad and you go to eat, you go, okay, when I feel sad, I'm going to call a friend. It's like you do something else. You get a different routine that still has a reward. The reward of calling a friend is that you get to discharge some of that sadness. You get somebody who understands you, you feel connected. And maybe that is really what you're craving, is that soothing of your emotional state, not so much that you just want food. So digging at some of those things are very, very good. I'm going to skip through a few things. I will talk about this slide here. So my grandma, was we were hanging out several years back on my parents' little patio there, and there was a dandelion, growing up, you know, through the cracks, you know, in there. And, you know, she pulled on it and it snapped. It snapped off at the ground level there. And so now, you know, like it looked fine, you know, but we all were like, oh man, it's just going to grow. It's just going to come back again later. And I think a lot of times, you know, there are some issues in our life that are like that. There's something is expressing itself. It's showing. You deal with the expression of it, but you didn't get down to the deeper reason it's there. And so, you know, so if you're 50 pounds overweight, you lose 50 pounds. You've dealt with the visible dandelion, but you've snapped it off at the root. You have not gone down below. You've taken care of the symptom, but you have not taken care of the cause. And so it's a lot of times it's just going to come back later. You haven't processed, you haven't dealt with the stuff that's below the surface on that. And so the dandelion became a kind of a helpful symbol for me of, you know, am I removing just a symptom, or am I dealing with the deeper problem, you know, with this? And if you're not dealing with the deeper problem, you've been avoiding that deeper problem, you're still going to struggle a lot. You're still going to struggle a lot, right? And so digging into that area will be helpful. I want to skip that too. I think I'm going to leave it right now. I'm going to leave it at this. All right. I want to see if we can chat about these things a little bit. There's some other things I certainly, you know, could cover on this. There's a couple of little random little blah, blah, blah things, you know, but I think that's quite enough. It's quite enough for right now. All right. So where are you guys at? I can call you by name if you want. Anne?
Oh, okay. I know I have negative thoughts about myself, and I try too hard to be a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that one video again that Andrew did where he had like 40 very positive thoughts with each exercise. I felt so good after that workout. See that one again.
Motivation in motion. All right.
It was called? Okay, so I can.
Motivation in motion was the name that he had for it. But yeah, I mean, you can try to look at it. Should be somewhere in there. You know, just look it up under cardio. And I'm pretty sure it was more in the 30 to 60 minute one. You know, there, and the background I think was had blue and orange triangles on it. You know, and so so that's a good one. Yeah, so that's a great example, and of bringing good into you. You know, is like bringing I need to put good inputs in here, and not just all the tough stuff that I say. I think there's a lot of people out there that we could say suffer from perfectionism. And that was even one thought I had on this topic when I was kind of putting this together. Is I see that quite a bit. Is that there are times where somebody will if you want to identify yourself, you can kind of think of, are there times that you procrastinate because you are overwhelmed? And you hold off on doing things because it just seems like a lot to do. There's so much. Are there times where you get because a lot of times when you look for perfectionism, it's overwhelming to actually try to pull off something perfectly. So if you think about holidays or things like that, there's sometimes that shows up, in that. So a lot of times people that consider themselves they're procrastinators, sometimes they're hidden perfectionists. Is that they wouldn't classify themselves that way, but finally when it gets too late, they let go of their perfectionism and just get it done. They get it done in time, and still they're not late or anything like that, but it is finally when there's not that much time, they have to let go of their super high standard for it and just accomplish some of it there. And so that is a piece. I see perfectionism as a challenge. I was actually some of the slides I skipped over, in there was some on that. And that's one thing I did see in the maintenance panel, as far as just on average, people who are maintaining, at least had like a slightly kinder bent on that, on the perfectionism thing, is they would allow themselves a little bit more imperfection, and they could recover from the imperfection faster, because there wasn't like they felt like they needed to whip themselves anytime they fell short of some standard there. And so, yeah, so that is a real challenge. You think about motivation, emotion there.
I need it.
Uh-huh. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the things is too, like, is I think we were designed more for tribal living. Is that we were designed to have like a close knit group of people who like really know us well, and care about us a lot, and and you talk deeply with. And so sometimes you like, go, okay, I don't have that right now. I've either, sometimes people move into the area, or they move out, or they spent so much time investing in their kids that now the kids are grown and grown. They're like, what am I, what do I do? And then, so you have to start assembling your people, sometimes too, and sometimes that is a really, really wonderful thing. And, being the person to start the vulnerability sometimes too in that group. My wife has done a great job at this. So when we got married, she lived in Corning, she's from there, and she moved up here. She left her job, her family, her friends, all of this, and, came here to hang out with me. And so she had, as far as support system, it was like me and maybe some people on the phone, but the far more distance you have, the less time you hang out with them, those relationships get weaker and weaker, over time. And, over the course of, 11 years now, or, that we've been married, is that, is that she has slowly built up this crew. And she's got, it's like three other women that, they connect really well. And again, a lot of times, I think sometimes they may have started off the vulnerability, and sometimes she's just one of those things that people that just like, she just sometimes says things, that she's thinking, and which is really nice, because a lot of times it's, what other people feel, as well. And that it starts to break down barriers. So it's like, sometimes I'm the one in a group that starts asking the uncomfortable questions. Like, you're really not supposed to ask people that, Jeremy. Like that's kind of personal, but like it's life sometimes is too short to just talk about the weather, and so sometimes, asking deeper questions, actually hits at more real life, and it deepens our relationship. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, we are like really good friends. And so you start finding some of these people over time. That's why we one of the gifts that we got for our clients one year was big talk cards, and it was a collection of just these questions that this one girl, she was basically going against small talk. Basically, is why waste all this time on small talk? Why don't you just go right to big talk? And so there's these questions that just kind of stimulate that. And so yeah, instead of trying to come up with all these questions, I was like, let's just buy these cards because they are already done. There's like 90 different questions here. Very, very cool. So I think somewhere in that, when you look at the blue zones, where people live longer, happier lives, there's a lot we can learn from some of that, and some of that is in our crew. And I think you find a lot more acceptance for your lack of perfection in some of those settings. Like when you actually let people know that you're not perfect, and all of a sudden they're like, me neither, and you're like, oh, there's almost like a burden that's lifted off of you. When somebody, especially if it's somebody you respect quite a bit, so you got somebody who's like, wow, like you really got all this stuff together, like, your house is organized and you're well put together and you seem so successful and your kids are smiling and happy, and all these kind of things. You see that, but they're like, listen, I'm not perfect. Here's this and here's that. And all of a sudden, like, you hear one of the people you respect talk like that, and you're like, oh, I can breathe because you're not perfect either. And, it allows us to accept our imperfections better when we see that in somebody else. Again, I think it does play in a role. If it's somebody you go I respect that person a whole lot, and they stumble, and they have shared some of those with me, and I appreciate that. That's good. All right. What about the rest of you guys? What are you guys thinking? Where are these thoughts? Oh, do I have to say a name? All right, Janet, what are you thinking about? Oh, you're muted though. I can't hear you. Can you unmute? That's the video. Now I can't see you. Still can't hear you. Oh, now I don't know what's going on. She's probably still there. All right, Connie, what are you thinking about? We'll let Janet find her mute button, and then we'll.
I found my unmute button. I think about definitely the relationships are huge, and having shifted from Minnesota to New York and having to rebuild those connections, and actually, some connections do drift away. Thankfully, my friend Anne has joined me here on this on this journey with me, even though she's distant physically.
Yes.
But yes, having the local, or having the connections, regardless whether they're local or distant, and fostering them. Yes, and fostering them. And Tall Trainer has been huge for that here as I've reestablished back here in upstate New York.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's if it's farther away, it takes a lot more effort to maintain the relationship. Probably the easiest one is if you had one of those people that live next door to you.
Yes.
If you had like several of them that like lived on your block or something like that, it's very easily. I mean, like it's just like because then you just wander over. It's not
practice cooperative living.
Yeah, it's not a formal hangout. It's just like, hey, I just walking over, seeing how you're doing. When some of those things happen, it's easier. It's easier to keep a relationship like that going. I think sometimes we need bored time together. If you've been bored with somebody together, is a lot of times that's where a relationship does some growing.
Then you pull out those cards.
Yeah, pull out the cards. That's when you start thinking on different things. A lot of times we don't.
But yeah, having the support structure in place is huge, just for those times when you are self-doubting and when you are falling into the places of perfectionism and not being hard on yourself.
Yeah, having somebody to call up and just be like, listen, I'm like a really head trashy place. Speak some truth to me. Speak some truth to me right now, because my head is in a bad spot, and so like what is the truth about me? Having somebody who knows you good enough that they can actually, speak back to you. Because honestly, the more often you spend time with this person, the better truth they can speak. Because you're like, well, you're really nice. You're like, yeah, but, and then they're like, okay, when you did this, remember the story about when you did that? See, you're nice. It's like that person has more ammunition sometimes, to prove it back to you. It's like, see, you're not all bad. You're feeling like you're a terrible person right now. But I have proof. I have these stories. I have these stories that can confirm that you're not a terrible person. And so, so it's investing in those kind of relationships where, you have somebody that can hit you with it. And sometimes they got to hit you with it, and, they actually got to straighten you out. There are times where you're not aware of something, and, but when you have somebody who can straighten you out in a good way, and sometimes straighten you out if you're aware of a negative, too, those are, you don't need too many of those friends. You you do need one or two, at least one.
You need those valuable relationships also. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Very cool. Janet, what are you thinking? Did you get your mute button? Nope. Ah, I still can't hear you. It's gotta be on there somewhere. I don't know. I gotta find the microphone. Maybe you could write on a piece of paper and just hold it up. Let's see, is there anybody? I see a few others on here. So you guys, Leslie, I don't know if she's in a place where she can talk, but
I can
she
today.
Oh, you can.
I
All right,
can
there you
today.
go. What are you thinking about, Leslie?
I've got extra ears in here, but she's okay with it. I think you touched on a lot of things for me is the self-loathing and the low self-esteem and
Mm-hmm.
constantly feeling like I'm failing.
Yeah. And like, who comes up with the tape, the failure tape, it's like, where did that?
I don't know, but it's on autoplay.
Yeah. Where it's just like, and you feel like, like you're just, like, and I have to deal with a lot of this stuff too, is like, because there are times where I feel like I'm running as hard and as fast as I can, trying to, be everything, trying to be the ultimate in every possible area and every interaction, and it just feels like you can't keep up.
Right.
It's and so you stumble, you fall short here, you fall short there, and that can be very challenging. So you're processing some of those thoughts about that.
I don't know. It's all been in hyperdrive since February, so the negative mindset for me.
Oh yeah.
That's with the setbacks. So
yes, you've had a lot of challenges, and besides just challenges that we all are experiencing right now, you've had a bunches of your own, your own personal challenges there, and as one person said, how are we going to get over this current challenge or situation? And they said, well, the next one, the next challenge will be how I get through this one. As I'll forget about this one as I jump into the next one. And so in many ways, life is full of them, so you go, okay, Kurt, I need to work on how I'm dealing with these. How am I mentally coping with these? If this is a fact of life, if having, these different challenges coming up is just part of the game, I got to figure out how can I manage these things better?
right.
How can I manage these things better? And so, so sometimes, that's where you gotta tap on some people who are either farther down the path. You look into their life and you go, wow, I really appreciate how you deal with yourself or things like that. I would aspire to be like that. And sometimes you don't go like, can you be my mentor? You just go like, can we talk sometime? Like I just, and then you come up with the questions. You get a whole bunch of questions that you have for them. How is this and how is that? And you sit down and you just start going through the questions.
Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now with who's here. So how do you guys deal with the change in your body image as you lose the weight? And everyone's telling you you look great, but you can't stand the way you look.
I see some people who don't have their videos on that could respond too. You guys are allowed to just because your video's not on as well. All right. It's a good question. I'm not going to answer it.
I try to look at it as I'm going up a staircase and they say you look great. And I go, yeah, okay, I've made it up that stair and I'll just keep on going.
You made it up to that look great step.
And I have this image or idea in my head and I'll just keep going because I'll feel better. It's all about feeling, not how I look. And if I feel good, I'll be a good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very important, is that there's a piece of, part of that visualization is being the person now that you want to become, and like just embodying that currently, not being like, I will be a great person when,
Right.
When some outside circumstance happens to me.
I think it's finding contentment where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Be motivated to move in the direction you want to go, but be content with where you're at.
How many of you guys find that challenging? I mean, like is finding that the balance of that contentment, and enjoying where you're at and still pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a tricky place,
It
is to be content and pursue more.
So a piece that I was going to say to Leslie along those same lines is feeling, acknowledging that people are being aware that people are acknowledging that they see change in you. Okay, that's a yay. And realizing that you may be on a plateau, or you may not be where you want to be ultimately, but that you still have opportunity to grow. And it's a journey. Every step that we take, this is a journey. There's not really an end point, because if there's an end point, what's the other option? To go back the other way. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's just really enjoying each step along the way and continuing to look for ways to grow, continuing to look, I've reached a really good goal weight, but now I want to get stronger. And it took me 5 years to reach a good goal weight. So I had many plateaus within that 5 years where the weight wasn't shifting, but my nutrition was improving. So, and you have to improve your nutrition to be able to drop the weight, but still be really healthy.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, so it's like, there's not just one thing. There's not just one piece that's going to get you to your end point. There's so much involved. And to continue to look around yourself with 360 degrees, that there's many things that are involved with you feeling better about yourself and you continuing to be on your path. It's not just losing the weight.
I love the no endpoint thought, because as soon as you said that, Connie, I picture climbing a mountain, and then you get to the top and you're like, that's awesome, and then you come back down.
And then you go back down, right?
Yeah, and you're like, okay, that's done. But that's not really life in many ways, unless you just don't want to be up there. Yeah, but really, it's like a mountain that never quite ends, which could seem discouraging. But there's lots of wonderful views on the way. On this path of life, there's lots of really cool things to see. And so it's a pathway that doesn't backtrack, or at least that's the goal. is a path that does not backtrack. Is that you keep blazing forward into new areas, new learning, new opportunities, growth in different ways. Sometimes the growth is that you're fitting smaller pants, and sometimes the growth is a mental growth. And so you may be in a season where the mind needs to catch up to where the body's gotten.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The body has made all this progress, but the mind has not made that jump yet. So good
Opportunities to stretch, continue to stretch, and really really acknowledging that the friends that are around you do want to see you stretch. And if they don't, they're not the friends that you need to be spending more time with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because there are some people out there that enjoy seeing their friends do well. In fact, most people, really do, but sometimes they just have some head trash themselves that's holding them back from realizing what they're doing to somebody else. Because most of us, when a friend does better, we're like, that's great. I love my friend doing better. But sometimes we're so insecure, in ourselves, that when a friend does better, you can either be excited for them and root them on, or we want to pull them back down to where we perceive our level to be. Because if they go up there, that means I might have to go up there too. and it's like, oh, well, maybe I'm too scared to go up there. I'm too scared to follow right now. So if I'm too scared to follow, I might try to pull you down so I don't have to follow. So that's, you just have to look for that in some of your relationships. For Sarah and I try really hard, not to be one of those people with her, is that, when she steps out and she gets stronger and better and things like that, I go, oh, I got to step up my game again, and use that as an inspiration for me to step forward instead of trying to find a way to pull her back down to where I perceive myself to be. And that is a fun reaction that we sometimes have.
But you put the right word in there, fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a discovery. It's a discovery.
Yes.
You go, oh, look at what I just did there. Why did I do that? Why am I doing that right now? That's strange. What is the benefit that I'm experiencing here? Well, I'm excited we got to hear from Linda there. Anybody else got any thoughts there? I see there's Lori, there's Barbara, there's Julie. We haven't heard anything from. Any thoughts that you guys are having? I just want to give it long enough. I just want to give a long enough a pause. Just to make sure there. Oh, you got something, Lori?
Yeah, I think I have similar thoughts. It's a lot of insecurities and low self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
and perfectionist, which, I always thought was kind of a positive trait, but more and more I'm learning that it's not.
I hold back on that a little bit, though, on judging that trait as a positive or negative. Yeah, I use the trait stubborn, as sometimes, and you use that word, and sometimes people go, stubborn, oh, that's bad. I was like, but stubborn is also one of the most amazing things that you can be, that you're willing to stick with something. How stubborn do you have to be to stay married for 50 years? Like, you got to be kind of stubborn, just to stick out through all of the hard stuff and the challenges that life throws at you. Like, so stubborn is a good thing. Now, any of these traits can be applied poorly. Perfectionism, I think, it can be a wonderful trait. It's just like a sliding scale, though. It's like sometimes you slide into like the far side of you have to be too perfect, and then sometimes you slide too far where you're like, it's just a complete mess. And so you want to go, okay, well, like this is a good quality I have, but I want to try to bring out more of the positive in it. So I just want to stop you for a second and just make sure you don't pick on yourself. So you have perfectionism. Go on.
Yeah, that's about where I was going to stop.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I can tell how it holds me back in some aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so like for me, like in this, in this work that I do, this business, the tall trainer, refuse average, all this stuff, is I have a perfectionist bent to me, is that I want things to go so perfect, and it is so discouraging when it doesn't. So you guys having a bad experience or somebody getting hurt or something else happening, like those things really kill me sometimes. Like they're very hard on me, and don't like avoid sharing them with me because you think I'm too fragile to handle them. Okay. So, but like I don't like that. Like I want everybody's life to just go on perfectly, but I also realize that that's not a reality there. And so sometimes it is, striving after awesomeness, I think is an important thing, but it is like a part of what like Linda was talking about is just, having some of that contentment with where you're at while striving after awesomeness is a decent challenge. Is a decent challenge. And so like at the very least you need to recover to contentment sometimes. is that, like that's where like having those people around, I think, does help, is like, when you're striving really hard and you're getting really discouraged, is that's where somebody, like that's where that friend speaks into your life and says, yeah, but look how far you've come. Look at where you are. Look at the kind of person you are. Look at the impact you're having on people around you. And like, so like, okay, oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. That is pretty cool. And having somebody there that reminds you of things that have been accomplished. Not that you like are done accomplishing, but just to strengthen your resolve to continue the good work, that you're doing. So it is, and I think that's one that I struggle with, as well. I don't have all this stuff, figured out. I'm not spouting off everything that I know and I perform perfectly. I'm just spouting off helpful things that, assist me as I struggle with you guys. So very cool. Well, I guess we should probably wrap up here, but again, I hope there's something, not just like some good thoughts, and then you guys, we turn this off and you guys, just go about everything normal. That I would encourage you to find some exercise or some question or some journaling. You're gonna purposely try to reach out to somebody, like that, like they're actually going to be doing something. Here's one quote that I just saw this morning, and you can repeat it again. Is that information that does not change your behavior is useless. And so if we just went through all this, we got all these great thoughts, things are whirring and clicking and thinking in our heads, and then we just close the book and we walk away and do everything the way we've been doing it, that would bum me out. And so so be thinking about what can I take from this? It doesn't have to be like I need like 10 points. Maybe it's just 1 point. 1 point of something that I'm going to do something. I'm going to take an action that moves something in a good direction, because it's spinning in my head right now. Sometimes when you're at at a conference or you're listening to a talk, it's like, it's not so much what the person is saying, it's the thoughts that come into your head while that person is saying things. And so make sure you capture those things, because those things can be gold, because it's tough to get your mind in that energy place all the time, into that place. So so as you're thinking about brainwashing yourself, as you're thinking about dealing with challenge of the past, or what kind of self-image practice do you need to build on yourself? Are there some those negative beliefs? Do you need to write some of those out? And then do you need to start working on refuting them, piece by piece, using evidence from your life, of how that is not the full truth of who you are, is that negative belief about yourself. So I just want to encourage you guys, do something. Maybe there's 1, 2, 3 points at max of something that you really got out of this. Take those, use them, do something with them. All right. So, is it next week? Next week is another topic on something. I forget. I should really have those listed out in a better place. Wait. I think I can pull it up really quick if I do. I think I get it really fast. Let's see. The topic is quit playing small. That'll be nice. I mean, that'll play off of this one just a little bit. All right. So I don't know if you guys have seen the Mary Oliver quote, but we're gonna play off that just a tiny bit, with that one. So you can look it up ahead of time, try to find her. There, it's been attributed to Nelson Mandela. It's been attributed to Gandhi, I think, before. It's a good quote. But I will share that with you guys next week. All right. So you guys have a good day. Thanks for going deep on some of this stuff, to really think, process, and share some of those things, because I think a lot of times it will be helpful for each other to hear from somebody else. It's helpful for me. And then somebody who's listening in later on will probably get some good benefits. So thank you guys for stepping out and sharing a little bit of your thoughts and what's whirring around in there too. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Bye, Janet. Bye, Leslie. Bye, Connie. Bye, Ann. Bye, Linda. Bye, Lori.